Basement, level vibes with another one, straight up, blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fear in the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Barrett and Sue, cause
One day me been a bamboo down, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she penny good wine like a boxing gold. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day.
Sunday morning I was passing, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she penny good wine like a boxing gold. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. Shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra, shake, 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 Tyra.
One day me been a wakana, and me see Tyra pon the down, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she petticoat wine like a boxing board. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day. See Tyra move and day, oh see Tyra move and day.
One day me been a wakana, and me see Tyra on the down, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she petticoat wine like a boxing board. See Tyra move and day,
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Wakenham, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cop. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
Hey guys, good night. I don't know about you, but let me just say, Lemon's birthday tonight. So you guys have to wish Lemon a happy birthday. He has been on and off on the job. He's getting so frustrated with what's happening in Guyana, especially with the Guyana police force being as corrupt as it is. And now tonight, as we oftentimes do, we don't paint the entire police force with the same brush, but at the end of the day, the majority of those senior police officers are corrupt. They're as corrupt as it gets, right? So we're going to be touching on that. We have a little bit of Exxon stuff to talk about as well. Oh, yeah, we want to talk about that. So we will be joined by an expert in the area, Dr. Vince Adams. He's going to be with us. I have some questions for Dr. Vince Adams. And we'll ask Lemon to get in touch with Wayne Caesar. We haven't seen him a while on this show, and so it's about time he joined us for a few minutes as well. And all of this will be happening in just about 5 or 10 minutes or so. And we're wondering, Lemon seems to have a good contact and connection with Melissa Atwell, known as Melly Mel. She is featuring all over. If you're not on Facebook, I think for the Guyanese people, she has taken over from the publicity P. Diddy is getting, albeit P. Diddy is getting a different kind of publicity, but Melly Mel is getting what is considered a human rights publicity, a violation of her human rights. And you know, we all know the trademarks or the hallmarks of the PPP is just to go after their opponents and try to destroy them by any means necessary. So we will be talking about that and more right here on 107.1 FM. So do share the link and let folks know that we are on. We will be on for about an hour. If it so happens that we're over that hour, it simply means that Lemon wants to stay on a little longer, but just give you guys about an hour. Share the link for those of you who haven't shared the link. If you have already, thank you so much. And so, hey, where do we begin tonight's program? And 107.1. I see a lot of you sending out greetings, birthday greetings to Lemon. Happy birthday to Lemon indeed. 60 something. Oh, sorry about that, guys. It's none of my business, but happy birthday to Lemon. Hey, guess what's happening in Guyana? Imagine a minister, a so-called minister, Ramson. And this is what Charles Ramson Jr., who happens to be the minister of youth, sports, and culture. This is what he puts. And these guys shouldn't have a place in government, regardless of how you twist it, regardless of how you turn it. They shouldn't have a place in government. But it appears that the lowest of all, still down at the bottom of the barrel, those are the type of people, the kinds of people that we see in government, in ministerial positions, in official positions, and all these manner of things. No wonder how Guyana is the way it is today. And now this Nimakaram, Charles Ramson, this is what he has to say. APNU AFC should fire, or sorry, APNU AFC should hire Terrence. We don't know if it's Terrence or Terrence, wife, to find their SOPs. Now, everybody, these guys in the PPP, they know who wife should be hired for what. Right? That's a different story. Everything for these guys is a wife story, is a this story, is a all sort of things. But doesn't this guy have anything better to do? You know, he calls himself a minister. What sort of example? But then again, we can't expect better from these guys. And so on his page, Facebook page, that is, this is what he posted. APNU AFC should hire Terrence's wife to find their SOPs. We could hire Terrence's wife to find a lot of things. Lots and lots of things. Maybe Terrence's wife could find a lot of things on Ramson himself, but then again, she'll probably have to look for a very, very long time to find anything on Charles Ramson. You know, might need a microscope to find a lot of things on Charles Ramson Jr. And so Charles Ramson now, for those of you who don't know what he's referencing about, is Terrence, that policeman out in Trinidad who got caught, he got some girl pregnant and he sit down there and poor Terrence, oh gosh, all you should see that video. But on a serious note, I'm talking to you, Terrence was really in trouble. Terrence got caught. Terrence couldn't even say anything. He couldn't even say, girl, is what you're talking about, right? Girl, is what you're talking about. And so Charles Ramson is making a mockery of that situation. Of all person, Charles Ramson should be laughing about Terrence. Charles Ramson, again, of all person, is laughing Terrence. You know, for all you know, Charles Ramson could be a Terrence, right? But that's another story, mind you. But since Charles Ramson wants to hire Terrence's wife to look for something, can't find anything on Charles Ramson, if you know what I mean, if she looks. But the SOPs is right there in front of their faces. They are in control. The PPPC, they are in control of the SOPs. So there's nowhere Terrence's wife from Trinidad and Tobago got to look for SOPs. Ramson and his minions, them in the PPP, they have the SOPs. They have the SOPs for the PPP, their own SOPs, their own fraudulent, fake SOPs. They have that. They have the SOPs for the coalition, the APNU AFC. They have the SOPs. They have the SOPs for all the parties, including the pastor parties, right? All the SOPs. But yet this guy, who might not be different from a Terrence from Trinidad, he's saying, you know, Terrence and SOPs and hire Terrence's wife. Oh, gosh. But that's the kind of people we have in government in Guyana. A bunch of backward, a bunch of embarrassment for ministers and so-called ministers. I don't know, man. I'm tired of them. If you're not tired of them, there's something wrong with all you. I am fed up of them. They got to go, y'all. Got to vote them out. We're all fed up of them, huh?
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%. Get your
everything gone up. Every single thing gone up. Every single thing gone up. Cost of living gone up. People's blood pressure gone up. But yet these Pacus in the PPP regime, yes, these Pacus have nothing better to talk about. All the while they're talking about SOPs, they don't talk about it, you know, only when it's convenient for them. That's when they bring on the SOP talk. But they're the ones who ran away from the court. They didn't want the SOPs to be opened up in the court. They didn't want anything to be opened up in the court because it's going to embarrass them. They are the riggers. They know that they are the riggers. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The PPP guys are the riggers. And so maybe we should bring Terrence from Trinidad and Tobago to tell all of Guyana that, oh, you don't worry with them. The PPP are riggers. They have rigged the 2020 elections. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But then again, as I've said in the beginning, we don't don't have to go to Trinidad and Tobago to bring Terrence. Guyana, in the PPP, they get plenty Terrence. They get plenty PDD. They get plenty R. Kelly right there in the ministries, right there around Charles Ramson. Some of his colleagues are worse than Terrence. Some of his colleagues are worse than PDD. They're slipping all sorts of things. If you go into their homes right now, you might not just find 1,000 baby oil, so or whatever. Lots of things you will find: J's fluid, grease oil, bicycle oil, brakes oil, all sorts of things. They're worse. But yet these people have the nerve to come and talk crap. 61 dead voters, yet Charles Ramson is talking about SOPs. 4,864 absent voters, yet Charles Ramson wants to find Terrence. Charles Ramson probably wants Terrence for himself, since Terrence might be vacant right now. Who knows? Now, I don't know what's going on, but we've just got to read between the lines what's happening. Why is Charles Ramson Jr. so fixated on Terrence? Well, we can understand why. But let's move on some more serious issues here, right? 150 stuck ballot boxes. You want Terrence to look for that? Let him look at Freedom House for it. Let him look in Irfan Ali's pocket for it. Let him check Ramson's office for it. 1,278 missing oaths of identity. You still want Terrence to look for it? Let Terrence look at Freedom House. He will find everything there. Every single thing there. You may even find Kwame and the entire crew there too, doing what only God knows. But maybe not only God knows, maybe we all know indeed. We have tonight with us Dr. Vincent Adams, energy guy, energy expert, lots of energy tonight. And then we have Wayne Caesar, the guy from Over to You, who was missing in action last Saturday. Missing in action last Saturday, guys. Dr. Vince Adams, good night to you, sir. And Wayne Caesar, good night. How are you guys?
Good night, Mark and Wayne, and good night to your wonderful audience. Look forward to it as usual.
I'm doing well, Mark. Good evening to you. Good evening to Dr. Vince Adams, and good evening to all the freedom fighters present tonight. Good evening.
Thank you so much. In other words, good evening across the board. Let's get straight down to business at 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. It's always a pleasure to be on with my fellow Lindoner from Polka Street. Polka Street area. Somebody said look, let's not change the spelling of polka and add a J, because some jokers out there who are selling out the people of Linden are attempting to sell out the people of Linden. But let's not discriminate. We have a guy who's not far from Georgetown. Wayne is Plaisance guy, but Plaisance folks are not as powerful as Linden people. It's a fact, right?
Hey, Mark, you better be careful. My wife is from Plaisance, so I can't.
I take that back, please, Mr. Doctor. I take it back. And then we have some good people from Plaisance. We get Rudy Grant, Eddie Grant, Wayne Big Truck Braffett. We have who else? Buster Bradshaw. All those guys are from Plaisance. So good people are from Plaisance as well.
You know what's so funny that I tease my wife? As a matter of fact, she and our famous singer went to music lessons together. They went to the same school together.
Yeah, well, some folks from Plaisance and I went to the same university too.
I hope it's not iFlood.
Camp Street. Camp Street. Dr. Vince Adams and of course Wayne Caesar with us. And again, let's say goodnight to all the folks. I noticed some people already start abusing me about Plaisance. Golly God, thank you for asking people to share the link. We got lots of stuff we want to discuss this evening. But let us begin with, first of all, the Guyana Police Force and what they have done with regards to this issue. And as we read, the police investigation, police find ganja in alleyway after search at Atwell's residence. And the Atwell they're referring to is Melissa Atwell, also known as Melly Mel. The police force, as we are getting information coming in, that investigation or that illegal search of the property of Debbie Atwell and her mother, Melissa Atwell's grandmother, 87-year-old grandmother. According to information, police sources, that illegal operation was headed by this guy, ASP Singh. Illegal because they cannot find a search warrant at this time. And if they do present a search warrant, it's going to be a fake search warrant. So the police force may be cooking up the books at this point in time. But let me just make it clear that allegations are serious against this guy. In the past, there have been allegations that he faked his CXC subjects results in order to get into the police academy, cadet course, the cadet course. That's, let me just say, allegations. We're not saying it's correct. And then when he was stationed, we heard, according to reports, he was stationed at the narcotics branch of the Guyana Police Force, and very, very controversial things happened there. He was accused of certain things while at the narcotics branch. We are told also that he operated a nightclub or a bar or whatever, where lots of Brazilian and maybe other girls were there doing their thing. I don't know what they were doing. He got into a scuffle. The matter was brought before the police. There was no disciplinary action. He wasn't interdicted, nothing of the sort. And all of these accusations and allegations, mind you, he seems to be a blue-eyed boy of somebody high up in the PPP regime. But let us get back to this here. Melissa Atwell, also known as Melly Mel, has been vocal against the corrupt PPP regime. She has been exposing them in areas of terransology. And for those of you who know what terransology means, the cheating ministers, those who having kids outside and all manner of things, getting 3-4 women, doing all sorts of things. And so she has been exposing them. And the bumps have raised. And so they decided to host, as we would say, the police on her family in Guyana. There is no justification for the search. Her family, her mother is not known to be a drug dealer. Her grandmother, 87-year-old grandmother, is not known to be a drug dealer. And so it's pretty obvious what the police is up to, is basically targeting her to intimidate her with the state resources. And the PPP regime, they're using agents of the state to go after political opponents. And when they can get their political opponents, they go after their families. And this is exactly what is happening. This policeman should be disciplined. I will leave it at that for now. Dr. Adams, before we move on to any other subject matters that we're here for tonight, what is your take on what the police has done to Melissa Atwell's family?
Well, it's distressing, it's nauseating, and it's very frustrating. This here is tyranny. And the government, they really do not care. And I think that should be troubling to every single Guyanese. They really don't care. Is this the same? Matter of fact, this is the same officer. Now that you put his face up there, he was the same officer. Remember at Foothills, when he was caught, he was given the directions to one of his subordinates, and then he said he never said that. And then they replayed the video, and there he was saying lying. So these guys, they have no scruples whatsoever. They really don't care. And all they're doing, they're following what the leaders do. They're seeing what the leaders, the kind of tone that the leaders are setting as to how this government should be run. There's no sense of following the rule of law. This is a country, by the way, the World Justice Project just recently ranked Guyana 76 out of 142 countries when it comes to the rule of law. And their score was 0.5 out of 1. And, I know with regards to which university you've been to, you get 50 out of 100. That's even an F minus. So that's what we're dealing with here, Mark. And they're terrorizing the country, and it's to keep the rest of the country quiet, and the people are scared and intimidated, and nobody can't say anything. You can't even coming out in the street if you want to. Nobody can come out because they're scared of this government.
Mr. Caesar, thank you so much, Dr. Vince Adams, on this issue of police intimidation. And this is kind of worse or probably similar to the Gestapo. And those of you who read what Hitler did will definitely understand what is happening there in Guyana, the intimidation and the corruption within the Guyana police force, aided and abetted by those corrupt individuals in the Guyana government. Mr. Caesar, your take, please.
Yes, Mark, for now, I would like to bypass the Guyana police force and I would like to go straight to the government. Melissa Atwell has been very, very determined, okay, in our advocacy. And yes, she has exposed so many individuals within the government. But let's just say for a minute that we want to question what Melissa Atwell has been tabling with regards to these individuals in the government. Now, for me, no questions need to be asked now. I believe everything that she says just based on the reaction of the government, because if what she's saying or alleging was not correct, we would not get the reaction that she would have received. Now, we all know this is not old news that the PPP government seems to want Melissa Atwell and they want her in Guyana. Okay, they cannot get their hands on her. So the apparatus is then turned into her mother and her 87-year-old grandmother. Now, let's say when the police went into that home and ransacked that home, that woman pressure would have went up or she had a heart attack or something of that nature. What would the government and the police be saying at this point?
Absolutely nothing. Vindictive regimes do that. Dictatorships do that. Thank you so much, Wayne. Let us bring Tom Anderson with us. Mr. Anderson, good night and welcome to Straight Up. How are you, sir?
Hey, good night, everyone. And hey, Wayne, sorry for interrupting, man. You were doing good, man. You were on a roll.
Thank you, Tom. Good night.
Yeah. So, Tom, I just asked your opinion on what's happening. We've got to lay the blame, yes, strictly at the doorstep of the corrupt police force, the acting commissioner of police. Lots and lots of allegations of corruption there. And they have to take full responsibility for that as well, as much as the corrupt PPP regime. But Tom, I'm not sure if you read recently what's happening apart from the corruption and officers having $50-60 million in their bank accounts. They cannot say exactly how they've gotten the monies. Lots of corruption. But what's happening there with the raiding of Melissa Atwell, known as Melly Mel, the home of her mother and her grandmother? The police claim that they're looking for drugs. They later came with a Nancy story that they found a small bag with marijuana thrown outside of the fence, over the fence where Melissa Atwell's parents, mother and grandmother live. But when you look at the window and you look at probably what they claim that they found, there is no evidence that that ever happened. And some folks, eyewitnesses, are saying that they saw the police went there and just pulled a bag out of their pocket and just placed it there. But outside of that, though, Tom, what is your take on this particular story?
Yeah, I read a little bit on it, and it just, so you have to go back, I think, to what Jagdeo was saying after the sanctions came down. And he said that they were going to go after all of the drug dealers and the drugs. And like he was, saying they were going to go after people, basically. And you could tell that what he was talking about, really, because he was describing people who were like taking like gold and painting it, like turning the gold into like a dish or something, and then painting it silver or something like that. And like basically he was talking about going after citizens. And I thought, ooh, well, this isn't good. So I guess what's happening, what we may see, and that's what I thought at the time, what we may see from the government is a situation where they want to make it seem like they're going after corruption, but really what they're going to do is go after their critics and claim that they're the corrupt people, when really it's these guys, the PPP. And so that was a scary thing when I saw their reaction to the sanctions from us to basically point the finger to like citizen level people, when it's pretty clear when you look at the sanctions that we laid down, it's a government problem with the corruption in Guyana, right? So if it's a government problem, why would Jagdeo immediately be talking about citizen level type crimes to go after? Clearly, their playbook is when they get a little bit in trouble, they want to go after their critics and hide behind that controversy instead of them cleaning up their act. And that's how I look at this.
Thank you so much, Tom. And let me just say thank you for taking time out, even though it was a short invitation and you willingly accepted. Dr. Vince Adams, any follow-up to what Tom said there, or Wayne, with regards to how the regime is going after their opponents?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that you see, I don't even blame the police. The fish rots from the head. And the government has control over what the police does. And you remember one of the I think he's Brutus. I think it was Brutus who said here recently, Mark, I know you're on top of these things, that if when with the getting caught with the money and stuff in the bank, you remember what he said? He said that he's not going to go down alone. He's going to take others with him. And then you remember, and Tom brought up something that jogged my memory here. Jagdeo specifically said, you remember when Rickford Borg had his meeting in Washington, he said he was going to be taking names of all of us who attend that meeting, and he was going to, they were going to pay a price for it. So this here is not, it's proving to be not an empty threat now, that anybody who criticizes the government and he's been making his weekly threats to some of us. So the guy is, and that's what I'm saying. They're going just without any accountability and just doing whatever they feel like doing, and it's to terrorize people, terrorize everybody to stay quiet. And those who haven't started speaking out yet, they had better stay quiet and not say a word. And that's what the population of Guyana is doing right now. Nobody wants to say anything against the government or protest. And so I guess it's working for the time being in terms of the tyrannical nature of this government.
Well said, Dr. Vince Adams. 35 minutes after 9 o'clock, if you're now joining us, we go straight over to Wayne Caesar. Wayne, with the manner in which the PPPC operating and going after political opponents and intimidating and putting them on the blacklist for those who return to Guyana. A lot of folks, their names are there at the airport. Those who are outside of Guyana, their names are there at the airport. And I was actually told that my name is there at the airport there, that if ever I enter, I should be arrested. I just wish I can test them for that. People should test them, because this is a demonic regime that we have right now in Guyana. Mr. Caesar?
Yeah, well, Mark, I would say this. What is the international community doing about this? Because Guyana is supposed to be a functional representation on democracy. Does this prove that Guyana is a democracy? It does not. Obviously, what Dr. Vince Adams would have just said, that Barry Jagdeo is taking down names of individuals. That is not good. That is not right. We had a coalition government in place, and this did not happen to any PPP minister or supporter, where their names were being left at the airports. They could not attend function, or else there would be action taken by government towards them. This has never happened before, and we cannot. How long is this going to continue to happen, where Guyanese citizens are being abused by the government and by the Guyana police force? Mark is going to have a breaking point to this. And why I call on the international community, because it looks like if people are turning a blind eye to what's happening now. But when the repercussions start to come to fruition, you just can't want to run in at the last minute, because this is something that is building. Tensions are really building, Mr. Benchcop. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wayne Caesar. Their tensions are building. Tom, you listen to what is being said and a lot of the comments there on the website. We're reading a lot of your comments. Tom, I don't know, how does this make you feel as you look into the situation there in Guyana, and especially what Dr. Vince Adams mentioned earlier, that Jagdeo, and he reminded us that Jagdeo did say that they're going to take the names down of individuals and send them to God in heaven knows, maybe to death squad people, killing squads or whatever. But your take, sir.
Yeah, well, so we shouldn't look at it sort of like in a bubble, like Guyana is on an island. We have to sort of look at this in the entire sort of Guyana is one piece of a bigger geopolitical scene, right? And it's important to understand what that piece is, what the piece of Guyana is within the scene. And when you really understand that, and when you look at what's happening on that geopolitical scene, you can see that right next door, you've got the fraudulent elections in Venezuela, right? You've got this guy running out there, the leader now running out, Maduro, saying that he's caught another American that supposedly was there to try to assassinate him, supposedly. So you have that happening right next door, right? You have our elections going on, which are going to happen in about 60 days soon. We're right around the corner. Early voting starts in almost every state in about 2 weeks, right? So you've got that going on. And the issue with that is you have in our administration right now, someone in the White House who is doing things in the region that puts pressure on the regimes like the PPP, okay? But here's the issue. You have a guy like Trump who, if he's in office, he doesn't put this kind of pressure on them, right? And as a matter of fact, his policies probably strengthen Maduro. And so you have a situation where the dictators in the region and the people who want to be dictators are looking at our election and they are seeing some hope in that maybe Trump can win. And they are ramping up on their corruption and they're doing things that may look desperate, but in their minds to hold on to power, they're going to do whatever it takes to try to make it to maybe Trump being elected, right? And so that's how I sort of see it. And people have to realize that we have a corruption problem here in the United States that's huge. We have huge issues and those issues affect what's happening right now in Guyana. And so don't view it so much as just Guyana right now or just the police. You have to view this as this is one piece in a much bigger puzzle. And in that bigger puzzle, there are troubles. And we all are in this same boat together. We all have to look out for each other, which is why I'm on tonight to say, look, I can see how some of the things happening in Guyana can be connected to some of the things we see in New York City with like Diddy being arrested and not being provided bail. Stuff like that. It may not seem like it's connected, but I can see the connections. And I'm telling you, these are world moving events. And so we should view it that way and we should take it that way. And there's a seriousness to it. And that's why I continue to say that the people of Guyana have a lot of power. They don't realize that they do, but they do. And if they can organize around it on a local level, they can make an impact, not just for your own nation, but for everyone, including us.
You know, Tom, thank you so much. You touched on a very valid point there, going back to what Dr. Vince Adams said earlier, that the people are afraid. They don't want to come out. The government is intimidating them. They're losing their police force. They're losing drug lords and death squad members and despotic people within the PPPC regime, some very questionable characters, some criminals, known criminals in the convicted criminals in the PPP regime, the likes of a Kwame McCoy, who is sitting there as a minister, the likes of a Jason Abdullah, and mind you, those guys are convicted criminals, not allegations or accusations, convicted criminals. And so, Dr. Vince Adams, the people have that power in their hands, as Tom said. Why is it that your take that the people aren't using the power? Forget about whether the opposition wants it to happen or not, but why are the people using their power?
Here's the difference between the United States and a country such as Guyana. Almost every single individual in Guyana is somehow dependent for their livelihood, whether it's their relatives or whoever it is. Remember, Guyana is most of the folks work for the government, and if you don't work for the government, you connect to operate. You've got to get a permit from the government, which is just a bunch of political appointees in the government. And if the officers in the government does not comply with what a minister wants, they would lose their job. Their family would lose their jobs. They can't go anywhere to get a job, even in the private sector, because that private sector cannot function or do business properly without that affiliation with the government. So that's the reality. Now, Tom said something that I've been saying in terms of the geopolitics. And he's absolutely correct. I believe it's very similar to Russia and Guyana. They're holding on and hoping that Trump could get in. And here it is where it's going to hit Guyana. And I've said this publicly. If a Trump gets in, there is no question in my mind who Trump, which side. Well, of course, I'm sure that Tom knows about the conflict between Guyana and Venezuela. This guy is the father of all transactionalists in the world. Venezuela, and the only thing that this guy sees, as you guys know, you live here, the first thing that comes out of Trump's mouth all the time is oil. We're gonna pump the hell out of where. Okay, that's his policy. But remember, Venezuela's proven reserve is 301 billion barrels. Let me repeat: 301 billion barrels. Do you know what Guyana is so far? 11. Whose side do you think that Trump would take? He doesn't care about anything else. He's not that smart enough to even rationalize anything else but that oil. And of course, we know that this guy adores and worships strongmen. And one of those is Putin. He says it all the time. And Putin, Venezuela is a satellite country of Putin. So, I mean, everything is lining up. And then you hear this fool, our good friend here, guys, Ralph Gonzalez, I think it's yesterday or today, he said the best thing that can happen is for Maduro to stay in power in Venezuela. Now, that guy is supposed to be Jagdeo and Ali's best friend. And then this is the guy who is saying that basically Guyana's enemy because they want to usurp 2/3 of Guyana's country. We almost got into war with them when they were threatening to invade. And this Ralph now is saying Maduro is good for Guyana. So the geopolitics, I agree with Tom. It could get very, very interesting with the Trump administration.
Very interesting indeed. Lots of crazy stuff coming out of his mouth. A lot of crazy things probably at his table, when it's dog, when it's cat. Lots of crazy things, scary when it comes to immigration and all manner of things, threatening to deport millions of people. That is crazy. It's scary. But getting back to what you said about Dr. Vince Adams, about that guy, that crazy guy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonzalez, saying that Maduro is good for Guyana. How does he know what is good for Guyana? The PPP is not good for Guyana. Maduro is not good for Venezuela. But Maduro is good for people like St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister, Ralph Gonzalez, because he's personally benefiting from it, from the Petrocaribe and all these different things and lots of kickbacks. So corruption is rampant on the Ralph Gonzalez administration. No wonder why he's embracing his man. And I really do mean it. He's embracing his man out there in Venezuela, Maduro. But we don't need to hear Ralph Gonzalez saying that Maduro is good for Guyana. In fact, Jagdeo believes that a piece of Guyana should be given to Venezuela.
You could probably, on the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel out to the sea. So you make a slight concession in the maritime area.
So here is Jagdeo. And Tom, you're shaking your head. Dr. Vince Adams shaking his head. Wayne Caesar smiling. Wayne, are you surprised that Jagdeo, who sits there now as an official of the government, they're describing him as a doctor. He's not a doctor. He doesn't have a PhD. Never went to school for that. He's not the vice president. The actual vice president, the first vice president, is the prime minister, but he's not being described as that. That is why I'm saying the prime minister is from a place in Linden Town called Poker Street. And now this guy make Poker Street look like Joker Street. And this is not any offense to my folks there at Poker Street. But Wayne, what is your take on Jagdeo offering to give away a piece of Guyana to Venezuela?
Mark, my take on that, and I think Dr. Vince Adams and Tom would have spoken on it, that, Donald Trump is merely transactional. And when you look at the government that is currently in place in Guyana, that's a transactional government. They're not people-centric. They don't care about the normal man in Guyana. So the decision that Jagdeo was making to give, a part of our maritime area to Venezuela is merely transactional in nature. And Ralph Gonzalez is speaking the same language because Jagdion Irfan Ali would have allowed him that latitude when he was a part of the negotiations between Guyana and Venezuela. So Ralph Gonzalez give himself the license that he can now speak on these matters in relation to Guyana, that it's best that Maduro continue to be the dictator that he is in Venezuela. So when you go across the board and you look, you just see birds of a feather flocking together. And this is not good, Mark, from an overall perspective for the Guyanese people. And I think it would become even worse, as Tom would have said, if Donald Trump wins the Oval Office. I'm sorry for Guyanese.
Yeah, thank you so much. 48 minutes after 9 o'clock. Well said there, Mr. Wayne Caesar. Those of you who have just joined us, my guests tonight are Tom Anderson, no stranger to you guys. Tom might as well just take over the show. We have Dr. Vince Adams, no stranger to you guys as well. Wayne Caesar, no stranger to you guys. And I say Tom should take over the show. Tom has lots of his own shows exposing corruption and going after corruption in the United States. He goes after corruption all over. Tom, when I saw you when you were listening to Jack Deere saying that give a piece, not a piece of Jack Deere to Maduro or to the Venezuelan people, but a piece of Guyana to Venezuela. You were shaking your head. What's your take on that, Mr. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, what he's trying to do is open the door to the people of Venezuela for them to mentally accept that, you know what, even the people of Guyana are saying we should take their land. That's why he's doing that, right? And so once they start yelling at Maduro saying go take it, look, even they are saying take it. Look, it's not going to be just some maritime channel. They're going to take probably everything. And they're saying, oh, we'll take two. They'll take it all. I'm just telling you, if you really look at the situation and you look at the characters involved, if these guys can take it all, they will take it all. And a guy like Jack Deo, do you really think he's going to stand in the way of these other crazies? He will take his cut of the pie and he will bounce, and that will be it, right? I mean, that's just how these guys roll, unfortunately. So with that said, when you look at the situation, in my opinion, more and more, especially, so if you're looking at this geopolitically, right, more and more, I believe the diaspora have an impact here in the United States on what's happening back home at the ballot box. I'm serious. There are so many people that are here in the United States who have family from Guyana, who are from the region, from the islands, all throughout the Caribbean. These votes, when you add them all together, it's a massive amount. And it's that group of people, if they can wake up here in the United States, and one of the reasons why I come on the show is to basically try to make this connection. If they can come together, look, we have just in Haitian Americans alone in Florida, that's over 2% of the vote. That's enough to swing the entire state, right, for the presidential election. So that's the type of power we're talking about within the hands of the diaspora. Anyone who can vote in the United States legally, you're talking about a massive amount of power now, and that power can be wielded for your benefit back at home, period. That's how I'm seeing this now.
Yep, indeed. Tom, as we continue our program here, 51 minutes after 9 o'clock here. We want to get into some oil issue here.
But before, Mark, if you allow me quickly, then just to add to something that Mark, I know this whole thing about Jack Dio giving a pathway to the Atlantic. I take it even one step forward. I think we've already established that this guy belongs to this family of basically dictators and transactionalists. So the question has to be asked, what was in it for him? He's not going to go and give away a country without benefiting in some way. So that's the question we got to ask. But it's no different. Remember, it's no different. We get into oil and gas, which is the same thing that he's doing in his relationship with Exxon. He's basically giving away the country to Exxon. So when he said, you remember when he was in the opposition, we will renegotiate because it was worst contract ever. When they got into it, It was a right about turn. So it's that's how the guy is operating. So you've got the question is, what is he getting for all of this stuff? The compromises that he's making.
Well, the question is pretty obvious. I'll take that as a rhetorical question. What is he getting? We know what he's getting. We billions of dollars, allegations that he has hundreds of millions of dollars in a bank account locked away there in China. Maybe we should book a flight, or maybe send the accountant to China to find out. Wayne Caesar.
Who's managing that, Mark? Sue? Is it Sue who's managing that, or?
Well, I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe Sue. Maybe we should ask Tom to help us find Sue and what's going on with that allegations there, Tom. You never know. Dr. Vince Adams, I want to ask you a question as it pertains to the oil and gas. The controversial, the controversial Minister of Natural Resources, Bharat, who is alleged that accusations that he was questioned by U.S. law enforcement agents. He did deny that, and so that has been put to rest for now. But here it is, he has said something that is even more controversial, that especially with not wanting to be transparent with the oil and gas, he says there's no use. You guys, you experts, Dr. Vince Adams and others, so just shut up. There's no use for oil and gas commission because it wouldn't help to stop corruption. How do you feel that sort of opinion coming from a man who sits there as the Minister of Natural Resources?
Well, let me start out with by putting it in perspective that I've always said, and many have said, this guy is unfit for office in that position to start with. He doesn't have a clue as to what he talks about, because it's laughable sometimes, you know, the things that he spouts. But in this particular statement that he's made, that, well, we don't need a commission. Hell, this is the same set of people, Mark and Tom and Wayne and the rest of the audience, when they were in opposition. I remember when the draft petroleum bill, the commission bill, went before Parliament, they criticized Raphael Trotman because the bill had a lot of the power was going to be vested in Raphael's ministry, which is the same ministry that Bharat has now. They said, no, he has too much power. It should not be under the ministry. And now, guess what this guy is saying? This guy, but they never said there shouldn't be a commission. Everybody agreed that there should be a commission. It's just a matter of what would be the role of the commission. When they got into office, or even before, they said, as soon as we got into office, the first thing we're going to do is form this commission, which is, you know, supposed to be kind of quasi-independent or however it was structured. And they wanted to be quasi-independent. So now, or independent, because he was saying it should not be in the ministry under Trotman. That's too much power vested on the minister. Now the guy is saying, after committing to form this commission, just like they committed to renegotiation and they backtrack, they've committed to form this commission. And now this guy is coming out and saying, well, we don't need a commission. And here's his main reason, folks. His main reason is that we already have people under my ministry who is doing the same work that the commission would be doing. So the same thing he criticized Raphael for, they criticized Raphael for it not to be under the commission. He said, well, we don't need a commission. And the commission, here's the other things he said. The commission is going to hold up progress. If you got a commission, it's going to hold up progress. Unlike, you know, what we're doing in the ministry, we're fast forwarding progress with, and nobody's going to argue about that because they're not doing like environmental impact assessment. They're not doing feasibility studies, which is the norm. But you know what could be driving that? So here's a guy. So he's unfit to be a minister because remember, a minister is supposed to be representing the best interests of the people and the country. This guy doesn't have a clue what he's doing to start with. And then on top of that, he is working in the worst interest of the country. And what he's doing is hypocritical and counter to what the people, you know, how counter to how do we get our maximum benefit out of oil and gas and in a safe and environmentally sound manner. They're doing the complete opposite. And of course, you know, for probably personal benefits.
Dr. Vince Adams, nobody expects better from a Barrett. Nobody expects better from this regime. They're all in there to basically enrich themselves, and that's what it is all about. And so nobody is surprised that he is saying, the so-called Minister of Natural Resources is saying there is no need for an oil and gas commission. In other words, once you have an oil and gas commission, Tom and Wayne and others, is that you will set up an independent body that will be able to keep an eye on the cats and the sneaky ones there, the Ministry of Natural Resources. But he doesn't want that. And maybe that explains why 214 million US dollars still accounted for, Dr. Vince Adams. But let's get back to Mr. Anderson. As you heard there, you heard about,
and that might be a drop in the bucket. That 214 may be a drop in the bucket based on the other audits that we've conducted.
Lots of other audits. But Tom, you're shaking your head. I know you're so happy. You're proud of the fact that you have friends in Guyana. Maybe one day you want to go to Guyana. But what's going through your mind here is Guyana is so corrupt. Tom, what's your take on what you just heard, sir?
Well, look, actually, I've seen it here. There's a lot of corruption here. I keep saying it. This idea that there isn't corruption, and boy, there's a lot of corruption in the United States. So with that said, just looking at the situation, I believe in maximum transparency, because that way you can get as much accountability as possible, right? And so anytime you hear a minister of anything saying that transparency isn't needed, you've got a huge problem. And it's a huge problem not just for the people of Guyana, but it's a huge problem for ExxonMobil as well, because at the end of the day, as a corporation, they have to be regulated. You know how I know they have to be regulated? Because we regulate them like crazy over here. And you know why we do? Because we found that when we don't, we get like oil spills and stuff. All right. And so, yeah, we regulate those guys. The nation of Guyana has to be able to find a way to regulate the industries that are doing business within its nation, especially on stuff that has a huge impact like oil and gas, right? And so, yeah, there should be a commission. There should be 5 or 6 commissions. There should be and Exxon should be celebrating it. And the reason why is because they need to have a strong government to work with. Why? Because they do a better job as a corporation when they have a good partner in government on the other side that's working for the people of the nation, to make sure that everyone is making out, because it's possible for everyone to win. It just takes a lot of accountability, and it takes a lot of transparency, and it takes for the government to have some backbone and to have some expertise. And when they don't know, have the guts to reach out for help, right? So that's sort of what I hear. I hear a lot of opportunity, and I don't think it's a big ask for the people of Guyana to be asking for more transparency from what's going on with Exxon and that consortium with the oil and gas. I think that's a natural ask. It should be celebrated. It should be promoted, and hopefully that happens, because everybody needs it.
Hopefully, Tom, before you jump in, indeed, let us say that people in Guyana are not holding their breath. Please, Tom, nobody's holding their breath. The government is corrupt. Lots and lots of evidence about that. They don't want to be transparent. They don't want to open the books. They don't want to do things for the people. They do believe that throwing a little crumbs with cash grants here and there is sufficient. They believe in going out, and if they see that a social media person or some promoter has some sort of following, they try to buy that individual out, and all manner of things. Before we get back to Dr. Vince,
well, I just had an idea. There probably should be a commission on the government.
1 second, Tom. Let me just remind you of how Guyanese feeling right now. Tom, let me remind you.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout, and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up.
Everybody fed up, Tom. The singer saying best survive on the salary there. They can't survive. But you were making a quick point before we go to Vince Adams and then back to Wayne Caesar. Tom?
Yeah, there should be a commission on the government activities, really, right? So that's what I say. There should be maybe 4 or 5 commissions. There shouldn't just be a commission on the private sector. I think there's a huge problem on the government side, and there should be commissions there. There should be citizen commissions. There should be all types of commissions going on in Guyana because the resources there are there to have them, and it's time to open up the books for the people to actually see what's really been going on. For real, that has to happen at some point in time, and it's better to happen sooner rather than later because it's going to happen one way or the other. I'm telling you, the people are, like you said, they're fed up, they're tired of it. It's going to have to happen. Hopefully, it will happen sooner rather than later.
Hopefully. Vince, you wanted to add something?
Yeah. Let me go in with my good friend Tom, and I know Tom, and I don't know if you know, but I worked at the highest level of the U.S. government as a senior executive service employee within the Department of Energy. So the Exxon's, they reported to my department and stuff like that, and you were absolutely correct. In the United States, it's a totally different situation. Put the Trump administration aside in terms of our checks and balances and accountability and transparency. We used to be held accountable for those two things. If we're not transparent, and then we were held accountable. In Guyana, everything that you're saying there, it's ideal. In a normal democracy, that's what you would have. It so happened when I retired, went back home to help out. The other thing is the way that Exxon and those corporations operate in the United States is totally different in those countries. And here's a typical example. When I went back, they asked me to head the Environmental Protection Agency and to be advisor on oil and gas. I told Exxon, you know what Exxon did? Exxon formed a limited liability subsidiary to manage its operation. Exxon name is not on any document, and of course, you know what that does is to insulate themselves from liability. So the first thing I told them is, what happens if you get an oil spill? Who's going to cover it? You know what the contract said? That the permittee will cover the cost. Well, this limited liability company has no assets to cover a cost. The last BP spill cost 145 billion US dollars. Guyana's budget is, well, now it's up to 5 billion US dollars. It used to be 1 point something billion at the time. I know what I told Exxon. You will not produce 1 barrel of oil if I do not get a parent company guarantee to cover any spill. Where they tried to push back, and anyway, they had to do it, or else they wouldn't have produced. Do you know what happened? As soon as I left with this government, they removed it. 2 citizens had to go to court, file a lawsuit. The judge ruled overwhelmingly in favor of what we had put into the permit, where Exxon, the parent company, has to cover our costs. Do you know what the government of Guyana did? These guys know. They joined with Exxon to appeal that case. And that case is now, the appeal is being heard, where it's not even come up yet. So the government of Guyana joined with Exxon against its own people. So if you have an oil spill, the people and the country would suffer. And it's not only the people in the country. Remember, this is all offshore. So all of the islands in the Caribbean within reach will be wiped out with an oil spill. Their entire economy for tourism, fishing, their beaches would be gone. And this government is siding with Exxon to go against its own people. This government joined with Exxon to appeal against its own people. So that's the situation. I give you that example, and I can mention a thousand similar type of examples. So it's you and I believe in the system we have in the United States if you put Trump aside for the moment. But in Guyana, unless you change the government, because that was under the previous government, the Granger government, unless you change this government, it's getting worse day by day.
Every single day it's getting worse day by day. And Jack Day, shameless creature, he actually stood on the side of Exxon as it pertains to the oil spill and what that insurance should be. No other place this could happen but Guyana, because you have a dictatorship. You have people who are just more concerned about filling their pockets. But let's head over to Wayne Caesar at 7 minutes after 10 o'clock. Wayne, you heard that the Minister of Natural Resources saying he doesn't want a commission to keep an eye on what's happening there. No level of transparency. You have a government that is bending over backwards for Exxon, selling out the country, disrespecting the people. But what is your take, though, on the lack of transparency in the oil sector under this corrupt PPP regime?
Well, Mark, I was always of the opinion that when it comes to our oil and gas resources, that the PPP should have tried their best to work on a bipartisan level, because I think that the professional that should have been over oil and gas in Guyana is sitting here with us tonight in Dr. Vince Adams, and of course his support with Dr. Mark Bino. I thought that they did an excellent job in the build-up over the 5 years from 2015 to 2020 in leading us into extraction in 2020. But of course, the PPP wanted to do what the PPP wanted to do. And Mark, you hit it right on the money. They wanted to fill their pockets. You know, this wasn't going to be a resource that would actually be used for the Guyanese people to benefit. You know, and the country is suffering from a holistic perspective. Someone like Dr. Vince Adams, he would have taken Guyana as if it's his home and make sure that, you know, once we're extracting, that we would have been extracting safely. He would have placed the people first and not oil and money before the people. But this is not what's happening under the PPPC. And there's so many different wells in operation right now that they're extracting from. That creates so much more risk. So I do not understand how it is that Anil Nandalal can join with Exxon Mobil, you know, to appeal that court decision. That is very, very, very not good for the Guyanese people. And it just shows where the government, from a holistic perspective, stand when it comes to human capital and people in Guyana.
The PPP regime is unpatriotic. They are there to sell Guyana out. But as we wind on tonight's program, before we get to Tom for his closing remarks, I want you guys to take a look at this. According to Christopher Ram, he says political parties ceding sovereignty by inaction on Exxon Mobil contract. What is your take on that, Mr. Dr. Vince Adams?
Now you want to put me on the spot. Well, I know, and in all fairness, I know for sure, like I said, the good thing is I had the taste working under under Mr. Granger. And I took some actions. I was in the newspapers every single day because I was bringing the United States standard to what I was used to Guyana. And it was very controversial. You folks don't, I'm sure you remember, I used to shut down the biggest companies, even those that supported the PNC. And Mr. Granger never one day called me, because he was my minister basically, and never called me one day and decided to stop me. As a matter of fact, he encouraged me, you know, to go forward with what I thought was right, and he backed me. And here we shut down the two biggest mining companies. Another big company, I'm not going to mention the name, that probably the biggest company in Guyana, shut them all down until they could comply. So compare the Granger administration, which is that party, to how the PPP is operating. It's night and day. And the AFC, of course, the AFC has made their positions very clear. As a matter of fact, in Parliament, they've submitted many motions that was not even accepted by the Speaker, who's also, you know, work basically is a PPP guy. They submitted many motions to make sure that the oil and gas sector is run properly, and they rejected the motion. Did not even come up for discussion. So,
you know, Dr. Vince Adams, as we look at the time winding down.
Okay. Yes.
Let's get back specifically to what Christopher Ram is saying here. And
no, I don't. I don't think. Well, like I said, I could speak for the two governments who have been in power. The PPP, I know that for sure they're ceding. There's no question that they're ceding sovereignty. When I was working for the PNC government, there is no question that the opposite was happening, because I was right in the middle of it, and we were doing everything, and Exxon was abiding with us. And when we left office, they reversed everything. So based on those two governments in office, you know, Christopher is my good friend, but I think that comparison government, when you have the power, I think it's different.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Vince Adams. Tom Anderson, again, it's always a pleasure to have you, even at the last minute. Folks, you can check out, Tom has his blog. He goes after corrupt agencies And that's why he keeps saying that in America there is corruption. He goes after corrupt politicians as well. Tom, your closing remarks, please, sir.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us over here to be able to help and assist with what's happening in Guyana. I think we're in a position more and more to do that. I think when it comes to the situation with Exxon, you know, I see on one hand, look, what's happening is Exxon is definitely getting the job done. They're drilling oil, man, and the checks are coming in. Okay, so that's happening. So that's a good thing. Now the bad thing is it doesn't look like they're getting enough regulation. It doesn't look like the environment is being protected as well as it should be. And it doesn't look like there's any kind of real transparency on the end of the Guyana government. So that even if ExxonMobil tries to do the right thing, are they even going to get credit? Will anyone even know that they're doing it? Because you have a situation with the government right now where they're just not on top of everything. And so that's where I think we can come in to help a little bit. I think there are other nations and other friends within the region who would also be there to help. I think that's what has to happen. And I think we know the answers are there, right? Like there has to be transparency. There has to be all these, we know it. And it seems like, oh, well, it just doesn't happen over there. Well, that's what the people have to organize and ask for. Instead of asking for whatever it is, you know, some complicated thing, something more simple like, hey, we need to have government institutions that have real accountability and real transparency. And we live in an age right now where that stuff can be done. It's not that hard to be able to set up a government where all of your documents are digital. I know it sounds like, oh man, they would never do that. I understand that's how the thinking over there is, not to do that, but this is how the people organize and change things. This is what they have to be asking for and be putting pressure on to do. And I think that's the more important thing, because as much as you might want to tangle with ExxonMobil, if you don't have a clear, transparent government side, no one is really going to know if the true benefits are coming from that drilling operation or not. Okay, that's just straight up. So unless the government starts to fix itself first, there's always going to be a problem that no matter how much you try to deal with ExxonMobil, you're not going to be able to get it fixed. And so it's to everyone's advantage, and it's to everyone should be interested. Exxon, the people of Guyana, the government, the PPP, everyone should be interested in making the government function properly and having accountability and transparency, because it only benefits everybody. And that's where we have to get to the point. And I think the people need to make that loud and clear, because they're the only ones who I think anyone's going to listen to at this point.
Thank you so much, Tom Anderson, there for you guys. And we shift over to the accountant, Wayne Caesar. Wainwright Caesar. That's his middle name, you know, guys. Wainwright. Wainwright Caesar. Your closing remarks, sir.
Mark, I would like to say in my closing remark that the power belongs to the people. Okay? They would have seen what the PPP would have dished out over the last 4+ years. Okay? And each individual adult Guyanese citizen that is eligible to vote need to examine his or herself, need to examine their practices, need to examine the leaders that they put in place to lead the country. As Tom would have eloquently said it, you know, everything starts at the leadership position. Exxon is pumping away. Guyana is getting money. The checks are being written. What is happening? We are the fastest growing economy. Why isn't it not trickling down to the normal everyday Guyanese? No, that's a question for the Guyana government. That's not a question for ExxonMobil. So I think at the government level, Mark, we need to see tremendous changes. And when I say tremendous changes, not asking the PPP to change their approach. The PPP needs to be removed completely. I think they've had their shot this first 4+ years with the oil patrimony, and I think they have failed the citizens of Guyana miserably. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wainwright Caesar. And as we close off with Dr. Vince Adams, in your closing remarks and briefly, if you can incorporate the fact that this lying element there in Guyana, Barra Jagdale, is suddenly saying that there will be coming soon an oil spill legislation. This is a guy who went against the court order. Justice Kissoon ruled in favor of the Guyanese people for a proper oil spill oil spill insurance. Jagdale fought against that. They didn't want that to happen. And so they fought against the Guyanese people. But here it is now, Jagdale is saying that coming soon, this reminds me of being under quarantine and you see a big movie sign at the movie theater say, coming soon, movie with Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee. Now we have coming soon, according to Jagdale, oil spill legislation. Incorporate that, please, briefly in your closing remarks.
Sure. Take. Again, it shows the autocratic nature of this government. This here is a ploy to override Judge Kissoon's ruling. You remember about that Judge Kissoon's ruling with the oil spill thing when they said we've got to, Exxon has to come for has to foot the bill for it. What this legislation will do, because remember, the judge ruling could be overridden by Parliament. So what this legislation will do is to override Judge Kissoon's ruling to say that it will be an estimate of the spill, not the whole value of the spill. And the estimate right now that they're putting forward there is $2 billion. You remember I told you about the Exxon, the BP spill was $145 billion. So they're saying in that legislation, mark my word, again, it's to override the Judge Kissoon's ruling so that the courts will be pushed aside. That's what this is about. And to make it what they wanted, which is what Exxon want, we're going to give you $2 billion if you got a spill, and you figure out how you're going to get the rest. That's what this is about.
Shame and disgrace indeed, Dr. Vince Adams. Don't be a stranger. We want you to be back right here on 107.1 FM, as we would oftentimes say to Tom. Tom is welcome here at any time. Anybody. Wayne Caesar has his own show. And so, Tom, again, thank you so much for your time. Even at the last minute.
Hey, nice to meet you, Dr. Adams, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, same here, Tom. And the last thing is, any company such as Exxon will only do as much as the government allows them to do. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. But your blog, you've been blogging a lot about the elections here in the United States, the upcoming elections and so forth. Quick take, what's going on? How is Kamala Harris doing in the polls?
Oh man, she's on a great path, man. She's leading in almost every swing state now. I mean, what's happening, so there's two things we have to be thinking about, and everyone should be looking at this when it comes to the American elections. So the first thing is, can Kamala Harris not only win, but can she get a majority in the House of Representatives and the Senate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's huge, right? Got to see that. But here's the other thing, okay? The Trump people and the Republican Party, what they're trying to do is basically eliminate the states like Georgia from the electoral college count.
Yeah,
they're trying to pass laws on a local level and a state level to make it so that counties within that state can basically say, we don't want to give our numbers to the state Secretary of State. If that happens, Georgia can't be certified, which means that that state won't be counted in this election. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take away states that they think Harris can flip from Republican to Democrat and basically eliminate them by having these local level people not certify the votes within their counties. Okay. And this is happening in multiple states. So that's what we have to look out for is, will the Republicans try to basically make the election invalid by having local level people refuse to turn in the results from their counties, making these states not certified, and therefore all of the voters in those states get kicked out of this election and making the electoral college number a lot smaller than what you would need to win. That's the strategy from the Republicans right now, basically, is to cheat. So that's what we need to be looking out for.
A PPP strategy there too. Tom, quite reminiscent of the January 6th attempt to have the vice president not certify the elections, right? So they haven't succeeded in that. and so they're going directly to the to those states that are considered swing vote states. Tom,
That's
as
right.
always, thank you. Dr. Adams, thank you so much for what you do as well.
You're welcome.
And we really do appreciate it, gentlemen. Wayne, thank you so much for what you do too, whenever you show up to do your show. Thank you. Wayne has had a busy schedule over the past 2 weeks, but they all mean well. He means well, and we thank him so much as we thank all of members of our audience watching, wherever you are. Thank you so much, and God bless all of you. If you're celebrating your birth anniversary today, happy birthday, just like Lemon, to all of you there who's celebrating anniversaries. If you have a loved one that you lost, our condolences as well. And for those who are faced with injustices in Guyana, we are with you. We are with all of you, and we are against those oppressors in the PPP regime and those who are in the Guyana police force. Tom, again, thank you. Vincent, again, thank you. Mr. Caesar, Wayne, thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you, Tom.
Thank you. Same, Dr. Adams. Take care, guys. Good night.
All right.
Thank you.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours a blackout, and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public face, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fear with the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them, they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Barrett and Sue, cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my...
You could probably, on the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel out to the sea. So you make a slight concession in the maritime area.
Yeah, my name is Jacinti Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Fuck, so let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, body walk, truck, body walk.
shame, Tyra, oh.
One day me been a bamboo down, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she penny good wine like a boxing good. See Tyra home and there.